Well, it's that time again. Here we are talking about prayer.
Time to find
No, talk about prayer. Time to talk about prayer. Specifically, a prayer, a specific prayer.
specifically
in
a
the Bible.
specific prayer of specificness in a specific place
By a specific person.
by a specific
at a
person,
specific time.
in a specific book that specifically
Is
its
Exodus.
specifics were specifically written later.
Okay, then. So, specifically, today we're talking about another prayer of Moses. Not pacifically.
Do you know that Pacific means peaceful? Which is ironic because the Pacific Ocean is a very not peaceful ocean. And it was named that because the
misnomer.
explorer that found it on a good day when it actually was really peaceful. And then, like, they came back later and they were like, why did the guy name this ocean peaceful? This is, like,
not peaceful.
Terrible. Yeah. Okay, where are we?
We're in Exodus. And Moses is praying. And he's not praying for oceans.
Okay.
And we're not going to sing oceans.
Okay.
I'm not really a big fan of oceans.
Yeah, I can't swim.
Oh, no, I love the edge of the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Right close to the beach. But not deep water, no.
I'm not sure if I get seasick or not, because I've never really been out on a boat in the ocean. I feel like I get motion sickness, so I probably would get seasick, but...
well, we took a little thing across the bay.
Most of my motion sickness is like roller coasters and stuff, where I can't move with it, it's just it moving me. But like with something as big as a boat where I could like walk around and move and stuff, I'm wondering if it would be different. I don't know. We're off topic. Back to Exodus.
And he said if he did it by himself, it would be shorter.
It would, because I wouldn't have you bringing up oceans and getting me distracted by things that are specific.
Bring up oceans.
No, you were talking about things that are specific, and that started around.
Can we get back to something specific in the Bible? Like actually of Moses praying to God.
Well,
about God going with Israel.
Read the thing.
All right. So Moses does not want to try to lead the people alone, which that's reasonable. I mean, you got an entire nation.
Is this before or after his father-in-law tells him to put elders in place?
That's a good question. I think that probably comes later.
You read the thing, I'll look it up.
Well, no, I mean because that's not in Exodus. That's like in Numbers. That happens. So it's hard sometimes to line up the events in Numbers with the events in Exodus. They're kind of different. But anyway, what we want to consider here is Moses doesn't want to go by himself. He doesn't want to lead all these people on his own. And so he talks to the Lord, and Moses says to the Lord, this is in Exodus 33, verses 12 and 13, really all the way down through verse 16, the whole conversation kind of goes along. See, you say to me, bring up this people, but you've not let me know whom you will send with me. So he doesn't think he can do it by himself. He needs God to help send him somebody else to go with him. Yet you have said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my sight. So God had told Moses he was special, but he's like, you're telling me these things. He says, now, therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me your ways so that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Interesting here. He says, if I've found favor, help me to know how to find favor.
Yeah. No, well,
Are you okay over there?
Well, sneezing is a natural bodily function. Don't.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so it's not whatever it was you said. I've forgotten now. The sneeze blew my brains out.
Wow.
But it's basically like
he wants to find favor, but he already has favor.
He's saying, you say that you've given me your favor, but you haven't done anything to prove it to me. So how do I know that you're really with me on this?
You know, and I think a lot of people want some sort of tangible proof.
Yeah.
For God to say He's with us. We're troubled by that because of the physical nature of our being. We tend to trust the things that we can see and touch and taste and smell and hear more than the things that we can't. What's odd about that is the ability for someone to fool our physical senses, for our eyes to be. We talk about, my eyes played a trick on me. We often see things differently than they really are. We hear things that wasn't what it really was, but we thought we heard a different way. Sometimes we smell something and we can't figure out what that smell is. Uh, Sometimes, touch is especially when we can touch something and we don't have a clue what it is.
Okay, well, first of all, if the chapters are in chronological order,
Okay, so
which
this
is
in
less,
Exodus.
it is in Exodus.
Jobab.
If the chapters are in chronological order, which is less,
It's
well,
not entirely certain, but
yeah,
generally Exodus is presumed to be.
the judges are put in place
To
in
help.
chapter 18.
Okay, but that's not what he's not talking about. God putting judges.
No,
He's
no,
not
he
talking
was
about
just
a
saying,
human being to help him.
Yeah.
He wants some divine help. He wants
yes,
a heavenly being to help him take these people. So yeah, this is a different complaint altogether than that situation, really, when we think about it. So yeah, he goes on to say though, um, I want to know you. I want to be able to find favor in your sight. If I have, I want to keep finding more favor. But consider that this nation is your people. And so you need to take care of them, not me. They're not my responsibility.
Which is an interesting contrast to what God told Moses when the children of Israel had the whole golden calf scenario going on.
Your people.
Because he says,
your
people are sinning, you need to go down the mountain. And then in the very next chapter, Moses comes back and he's like, hey,
they're your people.
You're not helping me with your people.
Yeah.
And the guts that Moses has to be able
to call God out.
To call God
say,
out
hey,
on what he sees as a problem.
You do what you promised me you would do here.
Yes.
And it's interesting because he says to him, if your presence will not go with me, if you're going to try to make me go by myself, if you're not going, then don't bring us up from here. Just leave us right here. I am not going to go by myself. And that's his idea there. Don't bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that I've found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not in your going with us, so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth? That is the distinction. We talk about the nation of Israel. That was God's chosen people. He was with them in a way that he was not with any other people on earth at that time or before or after, even until the time of Christ, when he's with Christians now in a similar way. But that's an amazing thing. He's like, I want you to go with me, and if you're not going, I'm not going. We are supposed to be different from everybody else in the world, and you need to show that by being with us. And we're your people, then you need to be with us. But certainly, an odd prayer, I think mentioned odd, a very bold prayer to say the least.
But at the same time, when you think about the grounds that Moses is coming to God on, it really kind of takes some of the boldness away. Like, he's just basing all of his arguments on you said this,
Yeah.
you promised
Yeah,
this,
you
this
said
is
it.
who you are, this is in your best
Right.
interests.
Well,
So
but it still takes boldness to call somebody out like that. Hey, you promised this. You said this.
especially God, yes, it takes a lot of boldness to be able to come up in front of him and do that. But when you know that God never lies and always does what he says he's going to do and always keeps his promises, it's a bit easier, or should be a bit easier, to summon up that boldness to go talk to him about it.
Yeah. Hey, you said this, and I trust what you've said. So yeah, follow through with it. So of course this prayer is answered. God does send His presence with them in the form of the flaming pillar of fire, or the pillar of cloud during the day, and pillar of fire at night. But He says in verse 17, the Lord says to Moses, "This very thing that you have spoken, I will do. You have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name." So He just reconfirms what He'd already said before. Yes, don't. It's okay. Yes, I know I said that. I'm saying it again. The problem here, really, I think, on Moses' part, is a lot of times we're very impatient. We very much want God to do things when we want Him to do, and the way we want Him to do it, and He doesn't always work in the same way and in the same time frame that we would like for Him to. And so I think that's part of Moses' problem. He's just like, God's not working fast enough for him. And so we have to watch out for that too, because it can certainly happen. But I hope that we will see that, yes, if God's made a promise, He will keep it. We can come talk to Him about it, about the things He's promised. We do need to be careful, though, that we don't misunderstand His long suffering or a delay in an event taking place for being God not doing what He said.
Yes. Also, if God has given us a promise, or let's say you had a Gideon moment, you put a fleece out and you said, God, if this is going to happen, if you want me to do this, then let this happen. Like we've talked about a little bit in previous episodes. If you've done that and then whatever you asked God to have happen happened, then and then whatever, like the events wind up not going the way the fleece that you set out for God said it was going to go. Does that make sense? What I'm laying out there?
Yeah, you ask God for it to work a certain way, and the events come up, but then they don't go quite that way like you thought they would.
Then you might have a Joshua situation on your hands, where Joshua went into the land and they beat Jericho, and it was this mighty city and it was huge, and they took it down, and it wasn't a problem because they'd obeyed God. And then they come up to the little town of Ai and they lose badly.
Yeah.
And the reason for that was because at Jericho they had been told to do something, and one person in the camp had been like, "I'm not going to do that."
Yeah, somebody did.
And because of that, they lost a battle at a smaller city. And so,
died.
If you have a setup where you're planning to be like Moses here and come boldly before God, God, you promised me this. I set this up and it worked out right. And just
be sure you're doing your part.
Yeah, make sure that you are following through on what He has told you to do. Otherwise, He may hold back some things.
Yeah, and it won't be His fault.
That is totally within His right to do. I think that's everything.
That's an interesting one for sure.
Very much so.
They were a distinct people. They were special people, and God's presence did go with them, and it was very visible and very obvious. So.
And it's sad later on when they lose that somewhat.
Yeah. Well, the presence of the Lord departs. The glory departs. That happens.
All right.
Well,
hope
good
this
to see
episode helped you out. Glad you were able to come here, and see you tomorrow.